Komodo dragons are the largest lizards in the world today, but over 50,000 years ago, a much bigger and deadlier lizard lived on our planet. Megalania was a gigantic species of goanna, or monitor lizard, native to mainland Australia. It was the largest terrestrial lizard to ever exist, stretching the length of 3 king-sized beds from head to tail. But Megalania wasn't just big. It was one of the most potent and dangerous carnivores since the fall of the dinosaurs, dominating the Australian continent for nearly 1.5 million years. Paleontologists have long imagined a large prehistoric goanna prowling across the Australian outback. However, it was not until the mid-19th century that their vision came to life. In 1859, Sir Richard Owen, an English biologist from the British Museum, was sent a curious set of bones from some colleagues in Australia. They were searching for fossils along the Condamine River when they discovered, among a pile of marsupial bones, 3 large vertebrae that did not belong. Upon closer inspection, Owen realized that those vertebrae belonged not to any mammal, but to a giant lizard. He named this mysterious carnivore Megalania, which remains its colloquial name today, though it was eventually reclassified as Varanus priscus. After Owen's discovery, more paleontologists dug into Australian earth and uncovered skeletal fragments of one of the biggest and scariest reptiles to ever set foot on Australian soil. The exact size of Megalania remains a subject of debate, but based on skeletal fragments, we estimate its body to be around 5.5 meters long, perhaps as high as 7 meters for the largest specimens. Because of its enormous body, Megalania's proportions may have differed from goannas today. While modern species are lighter and slimmer, Megalania was significantly more massive, weighing in at roughly 600 kilograms. To support its massive body, Megalania had stocky legs and a long, heavy tail. It also had tough skin and powerful jaws full of sharp, serrated teeth. While Megalania's bite was powerful, the real killer may have been venom, stored inside special glands in its lower jaw. Similar to other varanid lizards, Megalania may have had venom that was a hemotoxin, which stopped its prey's blood from clotting. If truly venomous, a bite from Megalania would cause prey animals to continuously bleed until their strength was depleted and their systems shut down. This formidable reptile lived during the Pleistocene epoch, from 1.5 million to just 50,000 years ago, though its family, the varanid lizards, emerged significantly earlier. Paleontologists believe varanids evolved as early as the Cretaceous period and may have originated in Southeast Asia. Only later did they migrate to Australia across land bridges and island chains, where they evolved and diversified into sometimes giant species like Megalania. During its lifespan, Megalania lived primarily in eastern and southern Australia, where it dominated a range of biomes. Most of our fossils come from open forests, grasslands, and woodlands, areas with a mix of open spaces and dense vegetation. In these mixed environments, Megalania hid among bushes and trees, creating opportunities to ambush its prey. When an animal came too close, Megalania lunged at its prey and delivered deadly bites, capable of killing some of the largest animals of the period. Fossil evidence suggests that Megalania preyed upon a wide range of animals, including some of the biggest mammals to ever live in Australia. One iconic prey animal was Diprotodon, a giant marsupial, almost like an oversized wombat, that stood almost 2 meters tall at the shoulder and weighed over 2,500 kilograms. Diprotodon was strong and bulky, but its slow movements made it vulnerable to clever ambush predators like Megalania. Diprotodon wasn't the only mammal that lived in fear of Megalania. During the same period, Australia was home to the largest known species of kangaroo, known as Procoptodon. At 2 meters tall, Procoptodon would have towered over most ancient Australian life and had extremely powerful hind legs, capable of delivering devastating kicks. But even Procoptodon was no match for the world's largest and deadliest lizard. While Megalania was primarily a hunter, it was likely also an effective scavenger, feeding on the carcasses of large animals killed by other predators. Because of its tremendous size, Megalania may have bullied other predators, leveraging its strength to steal their dinner. After dragging the carcass away, Megalania used its wide jaw and powerful throat muscles to rapidly swallow big chunks of meat. Like other goannas, it was not only a fast eater, but an efficient one. It ate everything from meat to bones, organs, and tough skin. If food was particularly scarce, Megalania may have also stolen eggs from the nests of reptiles and large flightless birds. For an apex predator as large as Megalania, almost everything looked like food. Megalania had plenty of food sources in prehistoric Australia, but it wasn't the only large predator around. Paleontologists believe Megalania competed throughout the Pleistocene epoch with other kinds of carnivorous megafauna. One of its primary competitors was Thylacoleo, informally known as the marsupial lion. Thylacoleo was not related to modern cats, but it shared some features, like big, grasping claws and a powerful bite. Weighing up to 160 kilograms, these lion-sized carnivores mostly hid among dense vegetation, stalking their prey and then pouncing for the kill. Fossil evidence suggests that Thylacoleo preyed upon many of the same grazers and browsers as Megalania, such as Procoptodon. These two apex predators may have clashed over territory and food sources, perhaps occasionally fighting to the death. Megalania also faced competition from other large reptiles, specifically Quincana, a giant terrestrial crocodile. Quincana appeared on our planet in the late Oligocene epoch, about 25 million years ago, as an unusual descendant of ancient crocs. Unlike its modern relatives, which spend much of their lives underwater, Quincana was fully adapted to life on land. It had longer and more vertical legs than modern crocs, plus a more agile body. From head to tail, it ranged from 3 to 6 meters long, similar in size to today's saltwater crocodiles. Unsurprisingly, Quincana was one of the top predators of its day, with blade-like teeth designed for slicing through skin. It probably inhabited open forests and woodlands, hunting marsupials and other reptiles. Though we don't have direct fossil evidence of conflicts between Megalania and Quincana, these giant reptiles almost certainly crossed paths. In addition to other predators, Megalania likely sparred with members of its own kind. Assuming Megalania behaved like Komodo dragons today, adult males may have lived a solitary lifestyle. They could have roamed across large geographic ranges, driving out other predators that attempted to hunt or live on their land. If a rival male intruded on their territory, they were quick to assert their dominance. Conflicts between males probably led to violent territorial disputes. Megalania, like Komodo dragons, may have been immune to its own potential venom, but its sharp teeth and claws were still plenty deadly. However, its most dangerous competitors were not giant mammals or reptiles, but human beings. Between 65,000 and 50,000 years ago, the first settlers, known as Aboriginal Australians, migrated from Southeast Asia across land bridges and short sea crossings. We don't know the exact routes they took, but they likely travelled across the Indonesian archipelago, landing on the north side of the Australian mainland. Paleontologists believe that Megalania survived long enough to encounter the first wave of Australian settlers. Aside from temporal overlap, some of the most compelling evidence comes directly from indigenous folklore. In their stories, powerful, monstrous lizards, like the hui, trampled the ground and shaped the landscape as we know it today. It was said these monsters were so gigantic that they could devour entire tribes of people in a single meal. The Aboriginal Australians also referenced other giant reptilian predators, like the rainbow serpent, a creator deity that was probably inspired by real prehistoric snakes. There's no direct proof any of these monsters described actual animals in nature. Instead, these were mythical, exaggerated descriptions that probably helped early Australians conceptualize a strange new world. Regardless, these giant reptiles remain a fixture of indigenous mythology and played an important role in this ancient culture. In stories, Megalania terrorized early settlers. But, in reality, humans may have driven the world's largest lizard to extinction. A single human hardly stood a chance against Megalania, but as humans spread across the continent, they dramatically influenced Australia's ecosystems. Indigenous land management practices, for example, involved burning large areas of vegetation to reduce or encourage growth. These controlled fires altered local environments, causing changes in vegetation and animal distributions. Many species were also hunted by humans for their meat, hides, and fur. For example, populations of large browsers, like Diprotodon and Procoptodon, rapidly decreased around the same time humans settled on the Australian mainland. With their habitats distorted and food sources depleted, Megalania was one of many large animals unfit to survive in a human-dominated world. Eventually, this large and deadly predator disappeared from the continent completely. Humans played an important role in the extinction of Megalania and other large animals during the late Pleistocene. However, megafauna were already vulnerable due to significant shifts in the Earth's climate, including a big trend towards aridity. These changing conditions affected interior regions like the Australian outback, where many plant species died off and water became hard to find. The largest species, like Megalania, struggled during these times of scarcity, requiring more food and water than most animals. They also reproduced very slowly, making it difficult for the populations to bounce back when their habitats and food sources dwindled. Megalania did not live to see the modern world, but its legacy remains alive today. The study of this ancient creature provides us with key insights into one of the most dynamic and fascinating periods on our planet, when giant terrestrial mammals and reptiles lived side by side. However, much of what we know about history's largest lizard comes from limited fossil evidence. As new fossils and specimens come to light, we may discover that Megalania was even more extraordinary than we thought.